Hey guys, how's it going? Josh from Mad Charcoal here. I have today black liners from Pacific Arc. If they focus in, let's see if I could get it to focus. Okay. Oh, I lost it. Okay, black line. How should I do this? Like this? There we go. Black liner by Pacific Arc. These are the pens I'm going to be using for today's drawing. Ink drawing. And I have my reference pulled up here, and I have arches covered today. That's what I'm going to be working on with these pens. Hopefully it matches well. It looks like it's actually backward. I'll flip it around. So I'll link the reference in the description so you guys can follow along. And yeah, we should get into it. It's going to be a scribble portrait. I'm going to try to make it nice and large on this page. And I have it pulled up on my iPad and my easel, and we should just get started. It's a 0.5 and 0.6 size, so these are a bit large. You can see the tips on here. They're just felt tip pens. That's pretty much what they are. If I can get that focus in one more time. There we go. Felt tip pens. Really cool ones from Pacific Arc. They sent me them and I like to use them. I have two of them so that in case one of them dies down or just needs a little bit more time before I can use it again. Sometimes pens do that for some weird reason. Alright, let's start gesturing. It's going to be like a scribble portrait. I'm going to get a really rough idea of where everything goes. And not worry about the lines that I'm making, but more so worry about the placements of all the parts of what I'm going to draw. So something that has came to mind recently is that sometimes it's hard for people to draw this way, mostly due to the fact that it's very distracting to have a lot of random lines on your page, that some of them mean something and some of them don't. And it's distracting because people want to have that, like, if once they make the line they get emotionally attached to it, or they just feel that like they have to do something with that line now. And it's important to realize that you can utilize that line, or you don't have to utilize that line. You could replace it and then just kind of keep going over the same area to create value, and that way you don't have to worry so much about the line placement, because it's more like an average in a way, you know, like it's a collection of lines that create what the image will be. It's not just one line. So don't grow too attached to your lines. Get flexible with them. If you place them in the wrong spot, it's okay. Just keep working on it and move another mass of lines to a different location of where that might be the accurate location for accurate proportions. You know, like I'm looking at the drawing now, and I think that like I kind of put where this pupil is going to be a bit, and I placed one here, but I think it's got to be inside more, so I just kind of guide that in a little bit. And when I'm squinting and I'm looking at my reference, I try not to just look at it with my open eyes, but I squint as well, which helps me not be distracted by all the details, so that I can make a rough sketch with accurate values early on, and then I could refine those values and refine the sketch into the finished drawing without being too distracted by the details early on, because that'll lead you to make decisions that are not accurate really quickly, and it'll show in the end, because it'll look off, you know? So kind of keep your drawing as open-ended as you can. I'm not even making any real decisions here. I'm just kind of guiding where I want my masses and my forms to lie. If that makes sense. So there's a lot of overlapping lines. The more you overlap them, the darker they get, right? So what the values I want to start with are the ones where it's darkest, and kind of develop those. And I want the most contrast in the parts of the face that I want the most attention, right? So The more contrast, which means more lights and darks, means that people that are looking at your work are going to focus on that part most. So that's why I like to leave the outside edges and the top and the bottom of my drawing more light, I guess you can say, and not that many darks, because I'm going to put a lot of darks in the lips and the nose and the eyes so that people can focus on that part, if that makes sense. Like more contrast there allows for more focus. Otherwise the drawing is going to look really flat and the eye is going to get lost in all the different parts of the drawing unless you really put most of the focus here, 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 or wherever you choose to be. Maybe it's not here, but normally it is. You guys got to make sure also to try this with other references, with other styles or drawings and other maybe figure drawings. It doesn't have to be portrait drawings or maybe landscapes. It's all the same principles that you need to work with. So I'm just trying to give you guys some guidelines, some helpful pointers on how to work this way. It could be any felt tip pen. It could even be a ballpoint pen. The smaller you work, the easier it'll be to kind of get values with these materials, but it'll be harder to be accurate. I like to work large, so it takes a little bit of time for me to overlap drawings. Overlap enough lines in the drawings to make it have some type of realism or some type of registration in terms of looking like a piece of art or like a face. Alright, so now I'm going to get a lot more loose now that I kind of have everything established or where it's going to be. And little by little I'm going to start to create these values. I'm squinting a lot because I want to make these values seem pretty accurate, which means I need to get the underlying structure first in terms of values. And if I squint, I see that this is really dark here on the upper lip. Looks like the end point is around here. I'm also drawing guidelines, not just value lines. So kind of like I'll come down and be like, okay, if the pupil needs to line up with the outside of the mouth, I'll make a line there, like a rough line, and then kind of guide it toward that, right? Oops, just dropped the cap. Oh, I need that cap to hold the pen properly. Okay. It looks like the outside nostril is lined up with the eye duct-ish, kind of. But there's not much value change in this area. In this whole area it's pretty light, so I'm just going to keep it where the nostril is there. That's the darkest part there. Where the nostril is here is also dark. And then this shadow that the nostril's casting on the other side, it's pretty dark. Along with this whole section towards the eye duct as well. Just overlap, overlap, overlap. Don't worry about those individual lines. Worry about the whole piece. And make sure that you're working the entire drawing, not just focusing on one part and then moving on to the next. Touch it up, and like I'm touching it up here in the eye, kind of overlapping some lines, and then I'll move to the other eye, you know, like quickly. Otherwise you're going to have a lopsided drawing. You're going to have a lot of detail on one part and not a lot of detail on the other part. Or you're going to have it like a large eye and a small eye. You got to go back and forth, flip-flop, making sure you're balancing the whole thing. Work it all together. I know it's a lot of things to kind of focus on at the same time, and it will take a lot of practice to kind of understand exactly how all of it works. But it's all essential to create a successful piece in this style. I know a few different artists that work in a similar style, although I don't know if I've seen anybody that works in this exact style. Some of I forgot the name of the artist, but that he works in mostly like a loop, a very loops type style, less jagged than mine, but it becomes it's a very similar effect. Also, I think he has less details in his work. It's more of like a little bit more abstract, a little bit more expressive, which I really like as well. But I tend to just start to push the drawing and get a little too detailed at times. But, I'm liking where these values are going, and the proportions are fine. They're not the best, I could definitely improve on them, but they're working. Need to kind of frame the face in a little bit over here. Just a little bit. Because the light's kind of coming from this side, like 3/4 this way. So this whole side of the face is a lot darker. We'll just overlap more lines that way. Looks like the darkest part of the reference, or the drawing, in terms of the actual face, not with the background and the hair involved much, but is actually, I'd say, the iris, the inside of the shadow here of the nose, not this cast shadow here from the nostril, this nostril, this one's not so dark, and this shadow here on the lower lip that goes into the inside between the lips a little bit. That's really dark. Can bring that back out. So I gotta make sure, when I make sure those are dark, it kind of starts to read similar to the reference in a way. Something I also like to do is that I like to skip out on certain features of the face sometimes. Like I'll like leave a whole blank area or a very like open-ended area, just because it adds interest and adds like an interesting aspect to the drawing. If you allow, what I like to do is I like to allow the viewer to be involved and interactive in the drawing. If you make a decision about what the viewer is looking at on every single part of the drawing, then the viewer doesn't play as big a role in the drawing. And if you want the viewer to be more intrigued and interested and kind of fill things in with their own brain, then what I like to do to do that is I leave other parts of the drawing open-ended and kind of like almost falling apart, like in a physical way, so that like kind of this is open-ended. There's not real definition of where that face stops here. There kind of is here, so I'll leave that here because you still need structure. But if you leave it open-ended, like I'm leaving it open-ended up here too, then the person that's viewing the image can have a higher connection to the drawing or to the artwork because they also have a role to play. That's what abstract artwork does, right? You look at it, you get a feeling, you don't know what it is from, and you have a big part, and your brain has a big part in interpreting and interacting with it. But the artist guides you in that. By showing you some structure and some facts, and you fill in whatever is not facts, right? Which I think is really cool. But the thing is that this is a face, so there's a lot of facts to the face. It's not just random paint lines or random drawing lines. There's a purpose to a lot of these lines, but some of them are not. So it's kind of this back and forth interest with the piece. But it all comes with balance. You want to have a nice balance of structure and a nice balance of abstract. Also depending on what you're attempting to create, but that's kind of what I live by. Make sure not just, if you see a shadow, that you're not just making it black. You want to see what kind of value it is. Keep it from like a 10 scale value range. How dark is it? A 7 or a 6? A 5? Don't go like a 3 value range where it's like there's a light, there's a medium, and then there's a dark. That won't look very real in any way. It won't be as interesting. It'll look kind of flat, kind of cartoonish. So kind of try to develop your sensitivity to recognizing those values. That's what a lot of separates a lot of the very amateur artists from the professionals, in my opinion. Their ability to recognize different values and to manage to recognize accurate proportions and inaccurate proportions. So it looks like I did pretty much the entire drawing with the 0.6 instead of, I didn't really use the 0.5. I just kind of back up so that in case this one ran out of ink or whatever. But I think I'm pretty happy with the drawing. from a distance, you kind of get an idea of what everything's going on. You look nice and close, and it's just a collection of lines, which I like that effect. But I'd love to see what you guys create with your work. Make sure that you visit madcharcoal.com/shop or the link in my bio. I should link it in the description as well if you guys want to buy any of my work, my course, my drawing course, which is charcoal, and also a drawing kit with all the materials that I use for charcoal drawings. I don't include these pens, but maybe soon. You guys are the best. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you guys would like to see next. See you guys.